Hello and welcome back to Gearhead Geeks, where in this video we are going to continue on with our little Yamaha JT1 Mini Enduro. In the last video we got it all cleaned up, somewhat cleaned up. In this video we are going to go through and make sure it's all ready to run, and we're going to get the clutch fixed, we're going to fix the leaks, we're going to go through and make sure that it's ready to go. We'll work on the cylinders. We got some gaskets for it, and we'll go on from there. So let's get to it, and let's get this little Mini Enduro ready to run. Well, I have cleaned the crud off of this thing. It must have 5 pounds of mud stuck on it, and it's all the consistency of dried plumber's putty. But anyway, so for me to continue on to do a will it run video, I have to have the engine basically in the frame, and I had to remove the engine to get all the crud off of it. I scraped and I put chemicals on it, and I finally got most of it off. It still needs some more cleaning, but whatever. But in the process, this little lower frame loop is in really tough shape. What happened was it looked like somebody had taken, and this had fallen over and it broke off this foot peg mount, and they welded it with a bubblegum machine. I don't know what they welded with. It was really bad. So anyway, when they did that, they cooked everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off and clean it all up, get all that nasty weld off of it. I got to straighten a few things up here before I do anything. I want it to be in relatively the right shape when I can do that. But I'm going to cut this off, clean it up, bend everything back to the way it's supposed to be, and re-weld it properly. And then I can take this thing and finish cleaning it up and finish it. There's a couple little broken spots on it. There's some bad welds. I'm going to repair all those, and then I'll paint this all up. I'll go on ahead and paint where the engine mounts on the frame, so I can just at least I can put the engine in, have it done, and we can get this bike running, and then we can go on ahead and I will finish up all the rest of it. But the idea here is to get the thing running, but we can't do it with this. This is just not, it's not in good enough shape for me to bolt it back in. It's just going to fall apart. So we'll get all that fixed up, and then we'll continue on. So as Puddin in Puddin's Fab Shop would put it, I'm going to take the slice and dice and cut this guy off of here. If you haven't seen Puddin's Fab Shop, you need to go watch. He's really entertaining and he does a good job of stuff. It's one of my favorite channels. Anyway, so here we go. Let's see how nasty this thing really is. Try a different one here. I've got something called an indestructible disc. Okay, it is supposedly supposed to be able to cut through anything. Masonry, metal, doesn't matter what it is. All materials, it says. So what we're going to do is we're going to try it. Oh, that's that. Oh yeah, we're done. That's pretty gnarly, but I should be able to get it all. I got to weld up all this. I get it all cleaned up and get it welded. Get all this garbage off of here, and maybe, and then straighten it up. And then once it's straight, we'll then figure out the exact angle of the good one and go from there. Okay, so we got that all kind of cleaned up. all the nastiness off of it. And we've cleaned up the part pretty well. I need to do a little bit, but it's really super hot at the moment, and I got to do some wire wheeling on it and whatnot. So I got to weld this back up. I've got to weld this edge over, and then I got to do some more cleaning on it because it is a little on the weak side. Nice Black Stallion gloves. These are really, really thin, and they really make it nice to work on stuff. I mean, they're not the most heat resistant, but for doing stuff and you want to see and have a decent feel for things, not bad. So first things first, let's get an edge on this thing. And let's fill up the and we'll touch this guy up. Alrighty. Now, stay there. And so now, get something to point with. So we put a bead on this to give it some strength in the corner. Another bead to give strength here, and we filled that up. So I'm going to go grind this off, and once it's all ground off, then we'll get in and we'll figure out the angle of that one, and we'll weld this on. Get this as close as we can. Alrighty. Not terrible. Good. So now, what we need to do is just start a welding. You can. I don't know if you can see it, but it is welded all the way around, solid, not chunky, no big gaps in it, and it's a lot more solid than it was to begin with. I'm going to go clean this up and paint it. Well, we got this thing pretty cleaned up. It's ready for some, we're going to put some paint over bare metal paint on it, get this thing black again, and we can now go on ahead and be able to put our engine back in the frame. So now, after scrubbing and scrubbing and getting at least a couple pounds of dirt off of this thing, what I've done here is re-welded the foot peg pad on this so everybody's nice and level, and the foot pegs are actually going to fit and be nice. This is all freshly repainted, so it is in good shape and ready to go back on. But we're not going to hang it on there yet because we have some engine work to do before we can do a will it run video. So what we need to do here is we're going to take and just hang this motor in here because it's clean enough now anyway to at least be able to work on. And what we got to do is we need to fix the kickstarter and take a look in there and see if there's anything else that's all messed up, and we need to change the oil on it. So I'm going to hang this engine in the frame without the bottom loop, and at least it's a place to work on. Okay, so continuing on, we need to get this motor all put back together. So what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to go on ahead and put our cradle back in. We'll get that all done. I'm soaking down some bolts. So we're going to do a little quick restoration on them. I'll go through and how to restore these. We need to get the new spring came in for this. This spring is hosed, so I've got a new spring, and we'll put that in, and we can put this rotary valve together and get all this stuff basically ready for the cover to go on. So what I've done here is we have I took out the motor to clean things up, and what I had to do here is there was a tab right in here. You can see that where I'm pointing, that was broken off. And that was because whoever installed this, which is our Kickstarter mechanism, put it in wrong, and it just jammed in there. When they put it in wrong, when they kicked it, they broke off that tab, and then things went downhill from there. It then bent this spring right here. It bent that guy up, and it broke. This guy here broke. This was probably the original problem. This piece broke, and then they took it apart and they put it back together, or something of that nature. Whatever they did it wrong. So what I've done with this is I've rebent the hook on this. I heated it up and bent it, and then dunked it in oil, so it's still got a bit of a temper back to it. And I did the same thing here. I heated it up, dunked it in oil, bent it, dunked it in oil. So what has to happen is this guy catches, and then when the Kickstarter gets turned, it moves back and forth into this gear. So I built this little bracket. I then drilled and tapped 2 screws into it, Loctited it in. This has no pressure on it. It's just a guide where that little tab goes in. So all that you have to do this properly, it's a real simple operation. You just go on ahead and you make sure that when you put your Kickstarter in, that this guy here is behind here. That's the stop. And then make sure that this little tab right here goes into this slot. And so we just do that, and there it is. Just that simple. And then you take the world's best pliers, and you just grab the spring, you run it around, you get it over this big bar, and it's done. That's all there is to it. And now what happens is we can see if I can find the Kickstarter here. And what happens is when you hit the Kickstarter, this gear right here engages into this. This guy is running on the clutch, and when the clutch is on there, it will turn the engine over. So all that we need to do is, if I can find that Kickstarter, it's around here somewhere, or we'll just get a pair of pliers. Actually, a pair of pliers will work fine. So what happens here is, let's see if I can get this out of the way so you can see. Take this, and when you turn this, this gear comes out into here. It catches, let me get this. You can do it, and you can see that it turns this, okay? And when the Kickstarter goes back, this gear disengages from that, and it can spin. And that's all there is to it. And that's what it needed to do. So it works properly now. I'm hoping to find a new spring for this. It only takes a minute to put it in, but you can see now it's engaged, and then it disengages, and away we go. So that's repaired. So the next thing that needs to happen, this spring is destroyed. I'm going to probably heat this up and do the same thing with it. But our next adventure is to go on ahead, and we are going to put the rotary valve back together. So to continue on, we need to now start assembling the engine. So the first thing we need to do is assemble the rotary valve. So what we'll do is I'll just take a little bit of oil, and I'm just going to go over this surface just a little bit, just to make sure it's got some oil. I think I'll put a few drops of oil on the rotary valve, just because it doesn't hurt to make sure just a little bit of oil on it. Okay, so now, the way this is, this engine needs to be timed. The rotary valve has to open at the right time and close at the right time. It's super simple on these types of engines. This has a little keyway in it, and there's a pin on the crank, and it only can go on one way. There is no other way for it to go on. The rotary valve has a couple of indentations built into it that are really hard to miss. They're huge, and it just needs to line up with that pin. So all that you do is you just take it and you push it on there onto the pin. That is the end of that. Then there's a spacer that goes on here, and then you just have your rotary valve cover. This particular one's made out of cast iron. The other side is again, just cast iron. I have cleaned it because it was in really, really bad shape. And we're just going to spread a little oil around in there. Put some on the O-ring. Make sure the O-ring's got some oil on it. It's just a good idea to do. And then all you do with this, we'll put a little bit on the seal. Make sure everything's all in good shape. The spring side of the seal goes out because it's keeping the oil from the transmission out of the engine. And this guy does nothing more than just goes on. We'll get that on like that. And there's a couple pins to line it up with and the seal. And you just take it and push it onto those pins. And it is good to go. So then, nothing more than a bunch of screws. And we'll take a regular screwdriver and we'll go on ahead and tighten them up by hand. Really simple operation. This is really, really dead simple. So the next thing that has to happen is there's a gear here, and this gear can go on two ways, but it only really does go on one. There's a relief in this so that this gear can only go on to the back because the splines don't go all the way back. So you just take that, get it started. There's a washer. It's kind of a springy washer on this one. And there's a nut. And the nut that goes on here is exactly the same one that goes on the clutch. So they're interchangeable. Same part number, same everything. And we'll just go on ahead and we'll zap this guy down. Good. And we're good to go. Then the next thing you do is you get your shifter in place. I had to replace the spring on this. I recorded it, but the footage was corrupted. So anyway, so what we do is you just take that, you push the shifter into place, and make sure it goes all the way back. The spring, like right now, is not all the way in place. So you got to make sure it goes all the way through, and you just got to kind of push on the spring, and it will allow that to snap in. So now this guy is pushed all the way back, and there's a washer and a clip that goes on the other side. So it's really not a big deal. You just got to make sure you're doing it when you're doing this. And so we take this guy. There's a spacer. There's a washer here that's in there, and like the washer's right behind there, up against the bearing. Spacer and this drive gear. This drive gear is nothing more than the kickstarter idler. That's all it's for. And it engages into the back of the clutch. So basically all that you do is once you get this on there, you then put this on, and it's not all the way on, but what you do is you can turn the idler. You can turn the idler, and it will index. And it went in, it indexed in, the clutch pushed all the way to the back, the clutch basket pushed to the back. Then we take, and there is a copper washer that fills that area. There's another washer that sits on top of that, and then you put on the backing plate, the clutch hub. In the then there's a washer, and I'm going to bend this tab a little bit just because, that's got a tab on it, and if you look, there's a flat spot on this, and that tab indexes onto that. I gotta bend it, make sure it's in the right position. Indexes onto that. You take this, and we just go on ahead, and I'm going to take a rag so I don't tear up the glove, and right now, done. So now our clutch, to make sure everything is good, first of all, you can't move this in and out any at all. This is free, or this is the drive for our transmission, and this guy turns, and we just have engine compression. We just have the engine that's turning over. And it's not compression that we're feeling. We feel the magnet on the other side. And then, once that's done, you can then take your good pair of pliers and bend over the tab for the clutch. And as soon as we get clutch plates, we'll throw those on there, throw on the pressure plate, get a new gasket. There's some O-rings that go on here and here. And this side will be done. Okay, and continuing on, we've moved over to the magneto side. We got a nice new seal going in, and we'll slide this guy on. And we always knew Craftsman sockets were good for something. Nice big deep Craftsman socket. We're just going to pound that cookie into place. Now just very carefully push it in till it's just a little bit beyond flush, and that's good enough right there. And you take this guy, let me put a screw in here. There's no place at all for this to turn. There's no backing plate in here that you can turn or do anything else to adjust the timing. So how do you adjust the timing on these? Well, because of the fact that it doesn't need the dwell time of other things, you adjust the timing by opening and closing the points. And what happens here is there's a cam inside here, and it opens and closes the points, and the point gap is not really anything to worry about. The only reason they even talk about a point gap is to see if this cam is worn out or if your points are worn out and it can't open it enough. So basically what it does is you, in any point system, adjusting the points changes the timing, and it changes it dramatically. So you always have to remember, oh yeah, I've got a regular point system, I'll just set the points and the timing will be okay. No, that's not the truth. In the regular point system, you change the points, you have to adjust the timing. In here, what we're going to do is we're going to do nothing more than change the points to establish our timing. So with the flywheel on here, get this in place, how do we do that though? So there's a timing mark on this little guy here, and he is right here. It's probably hard to pick up on the camera, but there's a little pin inside here, but that's a bendable pin, and if somebody has bent it, you really don't know. So what we have to do here is we have to measure the piston before top dead center, and the way to do that is with a dial indicator. Now I happen to have one of these dial indicators. I'm going to move it over so we can see the cylinder head a little bit better. And the way this works is there is a pin that goes in, and this will go into the cylinder, and we can go on ahead and it will measure how far the piston goes up and down. We can find top dead center by when the piston comes up and then it starts to go down. We'll see that point where it does that. This is a genuine Yamaha dial indicator from this era. It is designed specifically for this kind of bike. So you just thread this guy in, and you got to get it started. I'm in a little strange angle here. Actually, let me just pull this out. Thread this guy in, and it just threads into where the spark plug was. Maybe. There we go. We got it. Okay, so it's threaded in. All right, and then all that we do here is we're going to go in, and we should be close because we're close to our timing mark, but we know that all I have to do is, now watch this dial indicator if you can see it. It's going to, it's coming up, and it's coming up, and it's coming up, and see where it stopped? Right there. It comes up, stops, and then goes the other direction. So that is top dead center right there. So all that we need to do is turn this guy. We're going to make a little bit of an adjustment here. We're going to just move this down to here and right about there. Okay, so we'll adjust our top dead center mark. Okay, there's our top dead center. Okay, and the timing on this particular bike is 1.8 millimeters before top dead center. Ask me how I know. Well, I've done so many of them. It is what it is. There's one. So we're at top dead center. We're going to roll this back 1.8 millimeters. There's one, and then here is 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, it's right there when it's on the 20. And what's happening here is the magnet's so strong in here that it's not allowing me to, it's not just stable at the moment. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit so I can get in there and look. And there's, like I said before, there's a little tang in here, and that tang allows you to put it on the timing mark, and then you can bend that tang to where it belongs. And we're going to bend it to where it belongs so that right at 1.2, 1.8 millimeters, it aligns with that timing mark. And so we don't have to use the dial indicator anymore to get it right. And there it is, and it's just right there at 1.8. So that this little tang is bent properly at 1.8 millimeters, and we don't have to worry about having a dial indicator each time. Now we know that we can do whatever we need to do and just line up that mark, and we're good. Two strokes generally are not that, they don't, timing doesn't need to be that precise. Timing is a very strange thing on a two-stroke. A four-stroke engine likes to have advance, and you've all heard of advance, and we know what that is. Advancing the timing, that means you more and more before top dead center. So as the gases compress, they can compress and they start to ignite, and then as soon as it starts to roll over, they get a good ignition on it, and that's the way a four-stroke likes to work. Two strokes are very, very different. They need timing to be very, very close to top dead center, in this case 1.8, and it doesn't matter what RPM, it really doesn't like to have any advance. The more you advance it, you actually lose horsepower because it's not firing at the right time. So in essence, really to make the most horsepower is it actually needs to retard a little bit, but it's not so much that it's worthwhile to do, because that would require a fairly big mechanism in there to retard the timing. So you just set it at 1.8, it likes it, it'll start okay, especially if you're using a kickstarter. If you're using an electric starter, well, it gets a little bit different. They have an advancer unit in there, and so it'll retard the timing a little more, so it's much easier to start. But then it just advances as soon as it idles, and that's all it advances. It's just a little tiny bit. It just makes it easier to start. So in this particular instance, the only thing that we needed to do is just go on ahead. We now took our dial indicator. We got our mark all set up. We got a little mark on the flywheel here, and we got a little tang bent just exactly where it needs to be, so that we know that once we hook up a device to look at, see when the point's open, we can then know that we have got good timing. So now I'm going to use another old-fashioned tool here, and it's called a point checker. Okay, and I'm going to check the camera, make sure you can see that. Yeah, you can kind of see it. We'll get it lined up a little bit better. And this point checker has got a little tiny needle on it. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, but this little tiny needle, and we'll turn this on. And all that we need to do is we will hook one side of this to ground, and we'll hook the other side. This is our point wire. This is hooked directly to our points. And it shows that our points are open. Now, it doesn't mean that our points are clean. I just kind of did whatever, but we'll take a look at it. And that's about where our points are opening and closing here. This you can adjust it down a little bit. We'll get it to its open, and then it's right about in there. And there's very little change in the ohmage there. If you hook this up a little bit, you could get a little bit more change, but we're just want to see when it changes over. So it's right about, let's see, there's closed, and then they open. So the timing is a bit advanced at this point. So what we need to do is we're going to go in here with a screwdriver, and there's a slotted head screw in here. And you have to loosen up that screw, and there's a little slot inside there. I'm going to get a different screwdriver that's a little bit smaller, and we'll take a look, and I'll show you that slot here. It's got a lot of magnetism on it. That's in good shape. If we look here in our points, I loosened up this screw right here, and there's a slot inside here that allows us to open and close the points a little bit. And you adjust the points that way. So you loosen up the screw, you can adjust the points, and we are going to be closing them down a little bit. So we're going to be rotating, we're just going to be forcing them this way. And once we do that, then the point, because we're a little advanced at the moment, so we need to retard the timing ever so slightly. And again, we got a lot of magnetism going on here, so it's making life a little difficult. Let me see if I can get this guy. There we go. Okay, he's on. And we go back to here. And it's a little hard for me to see at this angle, so anyway, points are closed and then they pop open. That's all you get, just a little bit. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to get inside. And again, it's a little hard to see, but I've got it. And then I'm just going to close that down till it just close the points, tighten it down, and see how we did. The points pop open. That's a little late, so we'll open it again, and then we'll get the screwdriver in there. The magnetism is pretty stiff. We'll open a little bit, just a little tiny bit, and it changes a little bit when you, with the screw, when you tighten down the screw, so that it causes a little bit of grief to, you have to work it a little bit, okay? And we are, that's there, and I'm looking at this, so I need to just open it just a little bit more, or we'll close it a little more, excuse me. There we go. Let's see what we got. And they pop open right there, and that's exactly on the mark. Maybe not. We just need a little bit. Check that. And that's exactly on the mark. Okay, and then we'll make sure everything's tight, which it is, and we are timed perfectly. And that's all there is to it. And all we did is we just adjusted the point gap. Again, these magnetos, that's the only way you can adjust the point, adjust the timing. And these are specialized sealing washers, or they're metal, but they have rubber in there so that they seal up extremely well. We may have to get a longer banjo bolt, but no, it's going to screw in just fine. And what happens with these is you don't need a lot of torque to seal them up. You can be gentle and just tighten them down without hurting anything. And now we have a properly set up banjo bolt, and it now will have its oil injection. So we are continuing on with our little JT1, and what we need to do now is we're going to go on ahead and look at the top end. The service manuals in these old bikes tell you can take apart the top end, hone it without replacing the rings. So we need to get this guy cleaned up. We're going to try a few things to get the cylinder head to look good, and we'll go from there. So here we go. Okay, so let's go on ahead and let's see if we can pop this cylinder head off without too much issue. May have to pull the bottom of the frame off. I'm hoping that we don't have to, but we'll see. We're going to make it. You know, there's a head gasket. It don't look good, but we'll clean it up and we'll anneal it and see what we can do to bring it back to life. Boy, that poor old head gasket really is beat up. Man. All right, so what's next here is we need to get the cylinder off. And it looks like it's going to come off. No, it's not. We need to pull this loose. Let's see if this comes down. Yeah, it does. We're good. Now we'll pull this guy loose. And it is just plain nasty in here. It is really, there's junk in here. There's mud caked on this thing. There's rust inside. The cylinder walls don't look too bad, so we'll be able to hone those up. We'll get this guy cleaned up. Our piston is dirty, but for the most part, not bad. Not seized up. Doesn't seem to be in terrible shape. The base gasket is basically completely gone. Well, it's got dirt underneath the gasket. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to see if this guy will even fit in my ultrasonic. The cylinder head is just got crud in it. It's, as we can see, it's just plain old ugly. Continue cleaning on this a little bit. I'll get all the dirt off of there, get the piston all cleaned up. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to take some fine sandpaper, and I see a small seizure on this thing, and it's really, really nothing. So our cylinder has been cooking in the ultrasonic. I have cleaned it, and I've mechanically removed as much of the crud as I could, but it's still pretty funky. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the cylinder out of here, and we are going to clean it up, and we are going to hone it and paint it and put it back on. So here it is. It's better. I mean, it still looks pretty muddy, but inside we've gotten all the crud out of it pretty much. I'm going to go work on this gasket here a little bit, and then once that's done, we'll go on ahead and hone it and get it ready for paint, and then we'll put it back on. So we now have the cylinder base gasket all cleaned off. I've cleaned off as much of the crud as I can. I'm going to go on ahead and let's get this thing honed. And to do that, I'm going to move the camera around to where you can see the vise. Okay, and we'll just take this guy and we'll put him in there. And nothing to that. And I'll probably do a little more cleaning on it, but that's okay. So now we have a dingle ball hone for this, which fits perfectly in here. And we'll put it in a drill. And I'm going to take just a little shot of WD-40 and put that in here so it has a little bit of lubrication. We don't need to get nuts. We just want to and what we're doing is we're going to create a basic 60-degree crosshatch pattern. And surprisingly, this cylinder really isn't in all that bad a shape. Okay, let's take a look at it. And so far, okay. So just so you can see, there is zero. I'm going to try and give it a little bit. I don't know. This thing doesn't focus real well, but there's zero scoring in there. There's no ridges at all. The cylinder's in surprisingly good shape. So that's good. I'm going to do some more cleaning on it, and we'll get a coat of paint on it and put it back on. So what I'm also going to do here is to make sure these surfaces are in good shape. You can just take a piece of sandpaper, and this is a metal top bench, so it's flat, and there's no, I mean, it's not a piece of glass. A piece of glass would be better, but this is good enough to do this job. And you just give it a little squirt of WD-40 and just a little bit of a scrub. And the good part about these cast iron cylinders, they don't warp very easily. So we're getting a good, the surface is not showing anything really weird going on. It's covering completely. And a little cleaning up, and this thing will be ready for paint. Got all the gasket off of there. I wire brushed off as much as I could. But one thing I do want to do before we get too crazy, so we're going to have to vapor blast. We're going to have to vapor blast this head. This thing is just nasty and ugly, and I can't get it all cleaned off. It's just not going. But I do want to surface this head. So I just take this, same thing. Let's take a look at it. And it's in pretty rough shape. It's warped in here. This is going to need a little bit of work. And we're starting to see if you look in this area, it's not touching there yet. It's touching a little bit. It's getting cleaned up, but we're almost there. And now we have a decent surface all the way around. So we're going to put this in the vapor blaster, and but while all that's going on, I'm going to clean this up one more time, get some paint on it, and so it's ready to put back on. Well, I know this is going to be really hard for everybody to see, but here's the head, and it is really nasty. It is just that red dirt that has been baked on there, and it will not come off with a wire brush or anything. So we're going to put it in our homemade vapor blaster here. I know that it's really hard to see in there, but I'm going to try my best. Maybe I can lean this thing in a funny angle so that you can see. Well, so after a lot of blasting and cleaning and scrubbing, the little head is looking pretty good. So it's ready to go back on. Our paint is probably dry on our cylinder, so we'll get this guy ready and we'll go over and pop this cookie back together. So now we can take our freshly cleaned up cylinder, freshly painted, all honed and nice. We're going to give it a couple drops of oil in here. We don't want to do a lot. What you want to do is you want to leave it just so that those rings will break in. If you put too much oil in it, they have a tendency not to break in because they're used and they're not as good as they could be. But for this, we're okay. We get our knock pins aligned, and two strokes have knock pins so the rings can't rotate. Get those aligned, and we just give it a little bit of a wiggle and make sure that everything is lined up. And once it's lined up like that, it is good to go, and our cylinder is on. And it's just that simple. We can give it a little turn over here. Make sure everything's all cleaned up. And it looks great. All nice and clean in there. All that crud is gone. Our cylinder looks good. It's got a fresh coat of high heat paint on it, so it'll last. What works really, really well for two-stroke cylinders is caliper paint. It will survive up to 900 degrees and still stay looking good. So it's a really good paint for these two-stroke cylinders, and it's got just enough. It's kind of a semi-flat. And we have worked over our little gasket. We've annealed it, cleaned it all up, got all the crud off of it, all the bad spots off of it, and we will put this guy on there, get him ready to go. We're going to try and order up a new one. It only takes a few minutes to put on, but we get that, and we'll go get our cleaned up head. And here's our cleaned up head. We've run it through the vapor blaster, and it came out pretty good, not terrible. This is, everything's not in the best shape here, but it is what it is. Okay, there's that. Okay, so we got some washers, and we've cleaned up our little nuts, and we'll get these guys on there so nothing looks so bad. 1, 2, 3. And let me get this washer on there. Get this guy on here. And like everything else, this is completely thrashed, but that's all right. We got it taken care of. We've cleaned up everything. We've got everything. So we're going to have to go on ahead, and we're going to start working on getting this oil pump hooked back up. Although the stuff that goes here isn't ready yet, we can still hook it all back up, and then we'll make sure things are working, get our little oil tank back on. But before we can get our oil tank back on, not only do we have to clean it up, but we also have to clean up this frame a little bit. So just a little 400 sandpaper, and I've been wire brushing this thing, trying to get all the extra stuff off. There's all the mud and the crud and everything else. And I've gotten most of it off. And having gotten most of the indestructible mud off of this thing, it's all mounted back on, so we're going to have to get a little line to go from here to our oil pump. And we'll probably use the stalker for now. Not sure if this is it or not. Yeah, that's it. Well, I just pulled off the bowl, and there is some nasty looking stuff inside of that. It is really terrible. There's a lot of its own water and stuff, and that's probably from me washing it, but it's just got old, nasty fuel in there. So what we're going to do is do nothing more than take a little bit of brake clean, which is pretty much the same as a carburetor cleaner. The stuff breaks down that junk very easily, and all of a sudden it's looking pretty clean in there without a lot of effort. I'll do the float same way. The floats in these are a little weird. They're just a little, it just floats and it pushes up against a little needle in there. And this one here's got the same. We'll just go in and give this a bit of a bath. Let it soak for a little bit first. Get rid of the Cust-O-Lem. Gasket's in terrible shape. There's not much I can do about it, so I'm just going to do the best to seal it up. We'll let that soak. Our little carburetor is all cleaned up at the moment. I ran it through the ultrasonic. I've sprayed brake cleaner through everything, and that's cleaning up real nice. And as soon as we get our rubber parts in reasonably good shape, we'll go on ahead and we can put the carburetor back on. So we've been kind of plugging away at this thing. This is all cleaned up. Our carburetor is now clean. I've got the cap in the ultrasonic with being heated up, and it's in a baggie of oil of wintergreen, so that should help it absorb. The heat will help it absorb. The vibration should help it absorb. I've been going through and I've pressurized the system and bled out all the oil, and I saw oil coming out of our little tube that comes in for the oil injection. I still have to make sure it is working when there's no pressure on it. But everything is all cleaned up and nice. The carburetor is sanitary. The float is, there's no real setting on the float. It just kind of comes up and hits the needle, and that's about the end of it. The jets are clean. All the passages are clean. The slide has all been cleaned up, gone through the ultrasonic, and it did a really, really good job of cleaning that up. It even shined up the brass. It did a nice job. So the top of this carburetor, that holds it down, somebody had put a wood screw in there. Oh boy. And I've tapped it back out to by 5 by 0.8. So that's back to normal. The only thing I have an issue with at the moment is I'm not sure about the choke plunger. The choke plunger is pretty beat up in there, so it's in oil of wintergreen also. And if that choke plunger doesn't seal properly, it will just run way too rich all the time. But we'll see how that goes. But as you can see, the cylinder head is all cleaned up. We went through and we vapor blasted it. We got this all cleaned up. We honed it. The pistons and everything is all cleaned up. Everything is all done in the top end. The rotary valve is all good. The clutch is all new. I lost the footage on the clutch. The whole SD card just it just became unreadable. And I tried a couple of ways of recovering it, and when I looked at the raw data, it was all F's. FF. And that's just weird. Something the camera had done or done something and gotten weird, or I don't know. So anyway, my cameras are not the best in the world because I don't know what to buy quite yet. But anyway, we'll get that done. This is all cleaned up. Our little tank is on here. It's in great shape at the moment. We've got to shine it up a little bit, and we got some touch-up to do on it, and we're probably going to get a sticker for it. It's got oil in it. There's oil in the pump. It bleeds out properly, so that's all good. So we have to wait until the stuff comes out of the ultrasonic. The engine's all tight. It's all good. And we got this painted behind in here. We need to work on this part and the swing arm. The swing arm's just terrible. But it's getting closer. We'll get some fuel. Once we get those other pieces out of here, we'll see what we've got. And maybe we can come up with a way to make an air filter system. I don't know. The owner of the bike is looking for something for an air filter, but we'll see what it is. But so far so good. The carburetor's all tightened up. There's a little small chunk of phenolic missing in there, but it's fine. It's just, it won't stop it from sealing, but it's okay. Carburetor is good and tight. No problems at all with that, so there's no real issues with that. This will all go back in really nicely once we get our other stuff in. It just kind of put it back in, get it in straight, and you line up there's a little pin, and that pin lines up, and it goes in, and everything is just perfect. So it's all going to be good once we get our cable in there, fuel lines, and it will be all good to go. We'll get our oil pump cable in here, which will get this guy up and going, and it's getting real close. The ignition's all done. We got the clutch activation system is a little bit on the broken side, and I don't know what I got to do with it quite yet. This may be okay, but it's got a crack in it, and so I have to see what I can do with it. Maybe I can repair it. Maybe it'll work fine with just some grease and stuff in there. I don't know yet, but just like everything else, it's just mangled. Everything on this poor little bike is mangled. So we're giving it the TLC it needs and wants, and we will have this bad boy up and running and beautiful in no time. Well, our little JT1 is starting to look much, much better. Carburetor's all in there, our oil pump's all ready to go. Our case is painted. We have an oil tank in there. We haven't done anything with the rear wheels or the front wheel, but we have put on new levers, and the throttle is working very nicely. A little more cleaning up to do. We still have to do we still have to make this thing look good, but at the moment we have good spark. The pipe is been installed properly, all nice and freshly painted, cleaned up. Our ignition system's all in good shape. I've got the clutch working nicely. We'll just go ahead and nice new levers on there. The handlebars are pretty much cleaned up, but we got really nice clutch action, and that's all working well. So we're pretty much ready to get this thing started. I've got my little fuel thing here, and I'm going to pour more gas in that. I'm going to mix a little two-stroke oil in there just to make sure that we don't make sure the oil pump is working before I do anything. And a little two-stroke oil is not going to hurt anything. So anyway, once we get all that ready, we'll give this thing a try and see if we can get this thing to run. Okay, I have hooked up some fuel to this guy. Let me get things arranged so you can see. We've got fuel. It's mixed with two-stroke oil because we don't know if the pump works yet. I'm going to run this down because I'm going to run the stand down a little bit. But first things first, let's just see if we got any leaks going on here. And so far so good. No leaks that I can see. Good. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down a little bit. So I have to climb up. Okay. Now I need to pull on this choke thing. It stays up like it's going to. There we go. Okay, the choke is pulled up. The ignition is plugged in. There's no kill switch on this thing. So here we go. Just give it a good. Very good. We just I don't have a handle on that thing yet, but she's a runner. Well, that was easy. No problems, no nothing. No fuel leaks, no oil leaks, no nothing. It runs. It needs a silencer. This is why I have tinnitus. This thing is stinking loud. But once we got to verify a few things, and we can now continue on with getting this thing to look nice and run nice and just work. That was a complete success. That was as easy as it gets. Just we went on ahead and did everything right, got the timing right, got the carburetor right, got everything just right, and it started a few kicks. It only took a few kicks to get it going. Everything was done correctly. The only thing that we need to do is verify a few things at the moment, and then we can continue on with getting it to look good and be a real cool motorcycle to ride. So we've got it to run. Now we need to finish it off and do a good job with it. We need to get a silencer on this thing too. Awesome, awesome. Well, that was a complete success. We have gone on ahead and gotten the Mini Enduro to run and start. It runs great. I've got castor oil in there and it smells great. Now I understand, as I said in the video, why I have tinnitus. That thing is loud. I used to sit in practice lines, flat track racing, and this was before the days of silencers, and you didn't have to have a silencer. And the crackling of 15 guys revving their engine, and me included, and with no earplugs, no nothing, because we were just too stupid to wear them. But anyway, the little Mini Enduro is on the way to being a success. The engine's in good shape. It is not leaking anywhere. The carb's not leaking. It idles. It does all the things that it needs to do. Everything is cleaned up. So now it's time to go on ahead, and we are going to continue working on it in the next video, and getting the thing cleaned up so it looks good and all the other things that you need to do. So we'll be going over how we recondition the fenders, how we paint things and make it look good. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like and comment, and we'll go from there. Thank you.